Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding. Mountain. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the blend of strength and strength endurance. And somebody just brought up a great question, and it's something that I think plagues everybody when they first start training, because you start to realize that gaining strength helps you get bigger. So why not just gain infinite strength and then you'll automatically be the best possible bodybuilder? So what I'm going to say is there are different plateaus that you will hit in your natural bodybuilding journey. And there's at first the point of newbie gains where you perpetually just go up in strength. You gain, quite a bit of strength in the beginning quite easily, as long as you just show up and train and it's something other than what you were doing before. Like say you were just sitting on the couch before and then you go to the gym and add tension to muscles. They adapt quite a bit at first. In the first 2 to 6 months, you get quite a bit of results, comparatively speaking, to the next few years. Right? You get a lot of results right at first. We call them the newbie gains, right? But a classic mistake people make is that they see powerlifters and they say, oh, if I get my bench press up to this much, then I'm automatically going to be this big and so forth. And they think that the road to gaining strength is linear. They think that if they just do strength stuff, like 5 rep sets and stuff, that's going to be the fastest way to getting bigger and stronger. And that's not always the case. So sure, one could argue that most of your training should be towards the strength training if strength is bottom line your goal. But if you compare a powerlifter to a bodybuilder of the same caliber, you'll see that the bodybuilder is quite a bit bigger in a lot of the main muscle groups than the powerlifter, and leaner to boot, right? So if we take the same body fat percentage and we compare the bodybuilder to the powerlifter, and let's assume they're all natural, right? You're gonna see that the bodybuilder is bigger in a lot of different areas than the powerlifter. Now, this isn't taking anything away from the powerlifter, because the powerlifter is a specialist in 3 lifts, where the bodybuilder is trying to get stronger and add strength endurance in many different lifts primarily. Now, one could argue that powerlifters use some of the small movements to help their main 3 lifts, but the focus is always the big 3, the deadlift, the squat, and the bench press. Where a bodybuilder is saying, I want to make bigger muscles. That's my main focus, and strength is a way to get there, but strength, or at least refining my 1 rep max, is not my main goal. So the things that I realized along my 30-something years of training is that I could push in strength repetitions only so much. So say I was going 5 rep sets, 6 rep sets, 8 rep sets, 4 rep sets, and I kept on doing this. What would happen is that I would hit a plateau, and then I wouldn't be able to break past it. And sometimes I'd end up going backwards. And what I noticed was that when I took a break from doing such heavy weight and going more into hypertrophy training, like 15 rep sets, 10 rep sets, 20 rep sets, and then come back to the heavy weight, there was a synergy that happened that not only allowed me to gain more muscle, which allowed me to gain more strength, but I also was gaining more strength and I was recovering better. So I was getting less joint pain, I was getting better results, and I was getting bigger muscles. So I was really getting the best of both worlds. So one could argue that because I got stronger, then I started to rep out with that strength. The strength was the main foundation, yes, but I still needed to rep out with that weight, or rep out with higher amounts of weight. So say I could do 315 for sets of 5 or 6 on the bench, and then I could do a set with 255 for a set of 25, 30 reps, right? I could basically rep out with heavier weight and therefore get the benefit from it. But it wasn't just straight powerlifting 5x5 that got the muscular results. If anything, I found that would, especially for my own constitution, right? It might be a little bit different for you, but I found that just sticking to that 1 rep range would start to work against me at some point. Now, the other thing you have to consider really is that as a bodybuilder, if you try to do 5x5 training or just pyramid heavy training with isolation movements like preacher curls or flies or lateral raises, you are going to injure yourself very quickly. There will be a major injury that happens, because I was just talking to a guy on a podcast today. He just had me on a show, and I'm going to tell you who this podcast is in the next day or two, so stay tuned. And I'm going to direct you to that podcast so you can listen to the chat me and this guy had, because this guy is very insightful, very nice guy. And him and I agreed on surprisingly so many things. So it was a very nice conversation, and I will let you know. So make sure you guys tune in, okay? Tune into the videos in the next few days so that way I can let you know who I am talking to on their podcast. And the one guy on this channel that does know, don't spoil it in the comments, all right? Don't spoil it. So what I'm going to say is that he said something very insightful, and him and I are going to talk about that on the podcast, but I'm going to just mention it a little bit here, is that not all exercises are created equal. So if you try to apply powerlifting techniques to every single exercise, you're going to hurt yourself 100%, because some exercises are made to isolate the muscle, but because of that isolation, if something goes wrong, there's not a backup plan for the body to distribute tension to another part of the body. And therefore, you will pull something or tweak something quite dramatically if something goes wrong. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. That's why if you're going to be bodybuilding, you can't be doing a 5x5 approach to pec flies. If you do that, you're going to tear a pec, or you're going to tweak your shoulder so badly you won't be able to train anymore. So there is a combination of some strength endurance, isolation work, mind-muscle connection when it comes down to firing certain muscles. And sometimes with bodybuilding, you're not necessarily trying to become more efficient at lifting more weight. You're trying to become more efficient at firing certain muscles or becoming good at wiggling your ears, right? It's like firing muscles that maybe somebody might be unconscious of, which is what I really love about blending a little bit of the strength of powerlifting, but also the awareness of bodybuilding. And then you get the best of both worlds. You're always focused on performance, but at the same time also being in tune with your body so that you know when something's going wrong, or you know when to change something because something feels off or something just feels perfect. And you are just so in tune with your body, you know when a technique is perfect for your body, even if you've never done it before. So that's one thing I will say. You can't just focus on getting infinitely stronger, because that plateau inevitably happens. And if you keep on trying to push through it, a lot of times you just end up getting injured. And at the same time, it's not necessarily the most effective or efficient way in order for you to gain more muscle. At that point, once you start hitting a plateau, then it's time to do some hypertrophy training. And when you start to rep out a bit and then come back to the strength, you'll be pleasantly surprised by your strength increase once you get your groove back. For instance, I was in the garage today and I have not done Romanian deadlifts for a good month and a half. And even when I was doing them before, I was only doing 225 for reps. And I was banging out reps with 315 easy on Romanian deadlift. Like it was not even difficult. So what I'm going to say to you is that if you trust in your body and you continue to push it, but in some sort of harmonious relationship, then it pays you back in dividends. But just mindlessly pushing against a wall and saying, oh, I can get infinity strong, that doesn't make sense. Because if you look at everybody that's been training for 30 years, they don't perpetually go up in strength. Even the unnatural guys, right? They only get to a certain point. Their strength gains just flatline after a while. And then that's what you'll notice. You'll get a certain amount of strength really easily, and then it starts to flatline quite a bit. And just pushing doesn't necessarily increase your strength. And ironically, when you give yourself a break from pushing into the strength, then your strength starts to increase a little bit again. But it definitely doesn't keep just perpetually going up. I mean, you don't see natural guys bench pressing 7,000 pounds because they went up every year 30 or 40 pounds on the bench, right? Right? Like if I went up every year, like my first year on bench press training, I probably went up 40 or 50 pounds, you know, because I was a kid and I was growing and all this, and I was really weak at first. And then at some point, you don't go up 50 or 60 pounds a year anymore, or you don't go up 100 pounds a year anymore on your bench. Otherwise, we'd all be benching, you know, several thousand pounds. So it only stands to reason that you cannot just rely purely on strength for all your natural bodybuilding gains. And if you do so, it could work against you. So I hope this explains to you why having tunnel vision when it comes to strength can work against you at some point. Although it is helpful to gain strength, it's not the entire focus altogether. And I hope this helped out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Mountain. And I'm going to have another vlog up on Rumble to you guys who are watching my Rumble channel. Don't worry, I'm going to put one up. I'm just trying to make sure that I have enough momentum on YouTube, because if I stay away from YouTube too long, or like several days, then YouTube stops promoting my stuff and it kills my entire sort of channel. You know, so in the end, I have to do the YouTube thing so that way I can do the Rumble thing, but Rumble thing pays nothing and it's just purely charity, honestly. So if you guys aren't patrons, I appreciate it if you become one, but otherwise, That's free content for you and it's extra. So thanks a lot for tuning into that as well. Mountain. Natural land.